Non-stop. It was very cool. It is time. I'll call the meeting to order. Hey, everybody. Hey, Dudek, sit down.
We're still tired from the city council meeting.
Sorry.
So we're going out to the world, so maybe people are watching at home.
And Vic needs to practice, so I'm gonna let him lead us in flag salute tonight.
Okay.
3, 2.
Are you ready? Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent?
Okay, agenda's all good?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Superintendent report, welcome back, everybody. It's so nice to see you tonight. This is my last superintendent's report of the year, and so just a chance to highlight on what happened over the last few weeks of the year. As you remember, there's lots of great awards that take place for 8th graders. So this is the Bristow Blue and Silver Awards. Great night for that. I was able to attend a wonderful event at Edna Hill Middle School that was put on. It was Mothers Around the World Festival. So it was a multicultural festival that was also close to Mother's Day. So a really fun, great event. Also had an opportunity to go out to the Brentwood Elementary Carnival, and I wanted to thank Stephanie Beeman, who's one of the parent club leaders out there. It was really a fantastic, fun family event. It felt like an event from old times, so it was great. Lots of traditions take place as students are transitioning from our elementary schools to our middle schools. And so this is Miss Bernamonte, who's the leadership teacher at Edna Hill, who brought students over to the 5th grade classrooms at Guerin and Brentwood Elementary, just to talk about what it's going to be like to be a 6th grader and give them some tips. So student to student, great opportunity for students to learn. Lots of plays at the end of the year. I had the opportunity to go and see lots of them. So this was California Gold Rush, 4th grade play, Gold Rush or Bust, that was put on at Montagnez Elementary. Thanks to Mr. Allen for putting that together with the teachers. Also, I want to remind you that there's only 5 training months left before the turkey trot for schools. So these are some turkey trot scooters that were purchased thanks to the money that's raised during that. So if you need some encouragement to get in shape, that'll be ready. I had the opportunity of sitting next to board member Mr. Thornhill and Mr. Montagnez at the first annual Brentwood musical at Montagnez Elementary. That was a really fun event to see the history of Brentwood told by 3rd graders there. This was also a really fun event that the 4th grade teachers brought back to Loma Vista. It was Vaquero Days, and so great opportunities for kids to make crafts and try out skills. Some of these students used to go to, the 4th grade students at times went to missions, and they went to Sutter's Fort and had the opportunity to do some of those events. And so this is a way to do some of that back where we are. Also, I got to see George Washington successfully cross the Delaware River, but didn't have to get up so early in the morning. So that was at Loma Vista Elementary in the walk through American Revolution. I got to see a really incredible Adams Middle School Orchestra spring concert. So Miss Isaac really put on a great show, and the kids were fantastic. So congratulations to them. It's wonderful to see that program grow throughout our district. And I'm so proud that we've been able to have a string program this year for every student who was interested in middle school. Another Brentwood musical took place at Pioneer Elementary. So congratulations to those students. This was a PTA assembly to promote an anti-bullying message that took place at Guerin Elementary. And so I'm happy to report that the teachers that are under that bicycle, they all showed up to work the next day. So it was not a high sub day the next day. So looks like fun. And then it was Asian American and Pacific Islander month out at all of our sites. And so Marsh Creek celebrated with a Tahitian dance performance that was out there. Students got to learn a little bit about a different culture. Congratulations for another successful show at the Emil J. Geddes Theater at Bristow. So Beetlejuice Jr. took place out there. I was not able to see it. I heard it was a fantastic show. So thanks to everybody who put that on. This may seem like a post that I have up here every year because I think I do, but the Bristow Jazz Band won a superior rating at Great America, which is the highest rating, as they do every year. So congratulations to Mr. Morello and his students. And then also Joel, who won an outstanding soloist medal for the whole event. So a 7th grader at Bristow. So great job for them. Also want to thank Officer King, who's out there trying to build relationships with students out at Bristow. And so I told him the next picture I wanted to see a little more air under his feet when he was out there, but he's doing a great job, and we appreciate all of that. I want to thank the HSS for continuing to honor so many of our teachers at an event they call Guru Vandana, which is a celebration of educators where students do performances and they're provided, staff are invited personally and are provided a meal and a little cultural history. So wonderful, wonderful event. Thanks for honoring so many of our wonderful staff members. This is Joe Dar, who's an archaeologist from the East Contra Costa Historical Society. And so they do great events with our 3rd graders that are learning about local history, digging in middens boxes and learning all about artifacts that they find out there and trying to learn about the past in Brentwood. So really appreciate that. We had a nice little event at Brentwood Elementary right before open house, but it was the 100th year celebration of Brentwood Elementary. So not in that spot, but of the school itself. And so several past Brentwood Elementary staff members came out there and then also got to see what was going on during open house. So it was a fun event. And I want to thank Patty Schneider and Guy Rolfs for putting that together and that opportunity for staff to come out. And that was followed by the annual Memorial Mile at Brentwood Elementary as well. And so a fun tradition that takes place out there. And then I also want to thank Brandon Gruber, a former student of ours who continues to give awards throughout our districts. Never Give Up Awards is what they're called. So here are 3 such recipients, one at Cray, one at Edna Hill, and one at Brentwood Elementary. And if you see there in the middle at Edna Hill, standing between Mrs. Medina and Mrs. Herrera, there is Brandon himself, who came out to give the award at their event night. So thanks to Brandon for doing that. We're proud of all you've accomplished. Also, I want to congratulate our Special Olympians who had their last competition of the year. And these are some of the Ron Nunn students who participated. So such a great event. And it's so fun to see so many school districts bringing their kids together for such a great thing. This has become a growing tradition. You might have noticed it on social media, but there are special clap outs now that are taking place in the honor of high school students who came through elementary schools. And so these are students that are going back. Typically it's on the Wednesday, that's an adjusted day, the last day for the high school, but our classes are in session. And so the high school students that are graduating, the seniors, show up in their cap and gowns and they go around and they take pictures with the teachers that they had in elementary school. And they typically take a group picture. It's a really fun event. I was able to talk to a few teachers this weekend who talked about how meaningful it was. You know, especially when you're an elementary teacher, you have students that leave you that are children, right? And then to see them come back with facial hair and deep voices is really a special thing. And so I just want to, the schools all have a million things going on, and for them to make time during May to do something so special is really a nice thing. And then again, some more 8th grade awards. Here's the Blue and Gold Awards taking place out at Edna Hill. Also want to congratulate our Special Educators of the Month for May. So you can see Richard Henry, who's a special education teacher out at Bristow, Tiana Ramirez, who's a paraprofessional also at Bristow, and then Erica Cruz, who's our occupational therapist at Loma Vista and also at the preschool. And a thank you to them for all of their work and being recognized by their peers. This was just a fun end of the year activity that I saw Mr. Curry's social studies students created their own history board games and then got to play them. So a fun way to do something exciting at the end. And then also Our schools also do a lot to celebrate their parent volunteers at the end of the year. Certainly our schools are great, but they're better because our parents are involved in them. And so these are typically really busy teachers and principals and aides and librarians that bake and buy food to put together and honor these special parent volunteers. And so this was what took place at Pioneer. So thanks to them. And then board, we got to celebrate also our 8th graders, right? So we started at Harvest Grove Elementary with just a fantastic ceremony honoring so many students who were moving on to high school from Harvest Grove. We had a beautiful night out at Adams Middle School. Wonderful job by Lauren Griggs and her team out there. Also a great event, probably one of our better weather weeks for promotion ceremony out at Bristow. So thanks to Anna Perales and her team out there. And then we closed out at Edna Hill Middle School with Mrs. Medina there on the stage giving her remarks, and just a wonderful time. And I want to thank the board. It's not every school district where all 5 members of the board make it to every promotion that takes place. And so thank you for prioritizing that in your schedules and being a part of those ceremonies. And then if you have friends out there that are looking for something to do, I want to let you know that June 17th, right in this room from 5 to 7, we'll be having a instructional aid job fair. And even if they don't want to be an instructional aid and they want to do something else, have them come by and see us. And we'll be happy to talk to them. And that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Eden. Is there anyone that would like to make a board comment?
I just have a quick question because it was asked to me. How come 2 of the middle schools didn't do the VFW?
You know what, that is a good question. I think it's been done. Sorry, I forgot. I think it's been
Previously it was.
It was previously done at all 3 of them. So that's something I can ask. I honestly don't know the answer to that. I think typically the VFW will reach out to us for the American Legion Award and do it. And so I don't know if it was a different American Legion Award presenter this year. And so I don't know if he only reached out to one school, but we'll follow up and find out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it must have been a parent that had somebody at one.
Sure,
and not the other. Or,
yeah. No, that was a staple for a long time. But I know that it's since we had the one gentleman that presented for years and years and years, and after he stopped doing it, I know that it's been a little bit more consistent. So I'll look into it and find out what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it was just somebody asked, and I'm like, that's a good question.
Yeah, no, it's a nice special honor for students as well.
If there's no other comments, are there anyone who would like to address the board in open comment, public comment? If not, then we won't need to open and close public comment. I don't think we can just move to the next item.
If nobody has any comments or questions on the consent items, I move that we approve items 8.0 through 8.6.
Second.
And while we're doing that, before we do an approval, I wanted to pull out just a couple of things there and then allow for an introduction. So one, in your personnel report board, I wanted to point out a couple of retirements of longtime employees that have had a large impact in this district. The first is Angie DeFremery, who is a longtime math teacher at Edna Hill that's retiring this year. And I just wanted to wish her well and thank her for all her years of teaching as well as math leadership across the district. She's made a huge impact in our district. And then I also want to announce that Bob Brown, our Director of Maintenance and Operations, has announced his retirement as of August 31st. And somebody else that's had a significant impact on our district for a long time, done a lot of work behind the scenes to keep us running. And I also wanted to congratulate Bob on his retirement. And then I also have our Special Ed Director, Justine Melendez, who would like a chance to introduce 2 of our new program specialists.
I'm just going to stand up because I can't see people over there. I am so excited to introduce to you Liz Gray, who's coming to us. She's a current coordinator at Liberty Union School District. She's coming to us. And Amy Bierman is coming to us from Lafayette. She is a department chair and teacher in Lafayette. And we are super excited to have them come aboard and be part of our new team.
Wonderful. Well, we're so glad to have you here, Amy and Liz. And Liz, I know you've been here before, so welcome back, hopefully, here as we go through. The board hasn't actually voted yet, so they're going to vote now. So depending on how that goes, we'll maybe just have you both stand up and say something about yourselves at that point, okay? Okay.
May I have a motion for the item 8?
I think you have a motion and a second already.
All those in favor of approving item 8, consent?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
It's always a tense time for our new hires.
Congratulations, that went well. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to say anything or just? Yeah.
So I'm just excited to be back. I started my career here in Brentwood. I taught at Grade Pioneer Low Vista in general education, and then I went to Adams to do special education, and I'm very thankful and glad to have the opportunity to come back in a leadership role. So thank you for voting yes for me.
Welcome back, Liz. Amy?
I'm very excited as well. It just seems that I won't have to say anything. I know.
That's how we get people here. Yeah. Yeah. So, Amy, we're glad you're joining us too. Welcome. All right.
Thank you. On the hearings and appeals, item 9, we actually have 2 public hearings. As you know, we have 2 board meetings, one next week as well, which will bring the actual approval, but we're going to do the hearing or whatever. And so the hearing at 9.0, which would be the budget, preliminary budget. So may I have a motion to open the public hearing on 9.0?
I move we open the public hearing, 9.0.
Those in favor?
Second.
Aye.
And moved and seconded. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that one we'll close that at the next regular board meeting.
Yeah,
Follow.
then we'll follow with reopen for the second one.
Yeah, and so now you can do the 9.1 as well.
Move that we open public hearing 9.1 on the local control accountability plan.
Second.
And moved and seconded that we open 9.1 for the local control accountability. Those in favor? Aye. Close, second, done.
Okay. All right, and that one also will close at the next one. So, and that's just as a reminder, those are 2-part processes for the LCAP and the budget, and also open for anybody to make public comments. So, all right, we'll go on to 10 there, Emo. 10-0.
I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation for expulsion of student 03-2025-08.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we have a favor for 10.1, the expulsion of student 03-2025-08. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 5-0. Our
I'll make
next
a
item.
motion again for 10.2 that we approve the recommendation of expulsion of student 05-2025-10.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded, we accept the recommendation of expulsion student 05-2025-10. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It passes 5-0. Item 10.3 is the presentation of the preliminary budget.
Yes, thank you. So tonight, we're looking at the 25-26 adopted budget, which begins the new fiscal year on July 1st of 2025. And as we know, this is required by Ed Code for every school district in the state of California. And here we are at the beginning of our annual budget cycle. We will adopt the budget if the board approves it on the 18th of June and then move forward in the budget cycle. So when we take a look at how we build the annual adopted budget, we look at the budget revenue and considerations. So this budget is based on what's called the Governor's May Revise, which is his most recent proposed 25-26 budget. He will actually sign into law by July 1st, what's called the enacted budget. There will be changes, but districts base it on what we know at May revision. So 25-26 is really the starting point for our anticipated revenues and expenditures. It's estimated revenue, estimated expenditures based on what we know from the May revision and from today. And then also, along with our budget cycle, at the same time, we're going to bring in September the closing of the 24-25 budget called the unaudited actuals. So in the governor's budget at the May revise, the COLA is at 2.3%. And we'll get into that a little further in details. But I just want to remind everybody that the COLA does not begin to cover our annual increased costs. So for the starting July 1st, we're having an enrollment estimated at 10,227. Our average daily attendance is estimated at 95.56%. And the supplemental funding, which again, there'll be more information on, it's our unduplicated pupil percentage, which supports students in certain categories, is about $8 million this year. And the good news is that our supplemental funding went up last year and continues to be increased this year. So the new budget includes our intervention teachers and the additional counselors that were originally funded through a couple different one-time funds and would have gone away without the extra supplemental money, which supports that work for those students. Part of the 25-26 budget, it's very challenging fiscally for the district, so we have to move the balance of Fund 17, which is a special reserve fund of $703,000 into Fund 01, and there is a resolution later in the meeting to approve that. So taking a look at what we call the full-time equivalent of teachers and classified staff, this is all the 13.5 additional FTE certificated positions, those are included in this budget, and those went to the board last February as, upcoming expectations due to growth. Same thing with, we knew we're going to add 4 new TK classes back in February and in March, so that's all included in this budget. The new budget also includes the increase in instructional aides for the transitional kindergarten, because it is coming forward where the student to adult ratio is reduced from 12-to-1 to 10-to-1 per class. So the district worked very hard. Thank you, Mr. Calabrese and BTA and everybody and Michael, Mr. Bowen, who worked on that. It was a lot of work, but this is part of what's in our budget this year. And the TK instructional aid FTE, it will change over time because we're still in the process of finishing, building those classrooms and having the aides and how many hours extra they work in each class to have that coverage. The 25-26 budget, it does not include any negotiated increases because we have not begun that process. We do anticipate, as we see each year, that we're going to increase in special education in programs and services to our students. We're always closely monitoring enrollment and attendance, and there will be this year what's called a 45-day revise at the August board meeting. So after the governor signs the budget, there are going to be some changes, which I'll talk about. Some we know, some we don't. So we don't bring a full budget, but we bring what's called a 45-day revise and show how it changed our school district budget. So we always talk about this, and it's really the basis for how we're funded by the state of California, the local control funding formula, LCFF. And just very briefly to kind of remind ourselves that there's a base, they call it the base grant. That's the basis for how every school district in the United States, in California, is funded. And it's by grades through a tranche of different grades. And then, so we have our base grants, and then every year the governor, the Department of Finance, the legislature agree upon this COLA. So this year we're getting to these base grants a 2.3% increase per every student who attends. Again, it's per average daily attendance for our district. There is a grade span adjustment bump for TK through 3. We don't do 9 through 12. And then what we talk about that supplemental and concentration money, and we get the supplemental. This district does not qualify for concentration money, and it's for our English learners, our people who qualify due to low socioeconomic, and foster youth. And here, this is what it looks like. So if you take a look at the circled in red, so this is the 25-26, they call it the adjusted base grant per ADA. And this shows you how much per student we're getting. And everybody else in the state of California is getting that. The challenge for our district is that we have a little over 30% of supplemental funding. So say if I'm in TK through 3, we're going to get $2,265 for every student that meets that UPP quadrant. But if I'm a district that has like 85 or 90 or 75% UPP, I'm going to get that for every student, the 20%, and I'm going to get the 65%, the 3,000. So again, that's our funding is lower than most districts in the state because of the way that is the way the revenue system works for the state of California for education. And just to point out a few things, I'm not going to read through the whole slide, but again, so the supplemental funding is called the UPP, unduplicated pupil percentage. We are this year at 38.28%, and we have 4,463 students. And what the chart shows is just that for a single year, we are actually at 43.62%, but the state funds you on a 3-year rolling average. So it's the 2 previous years and this year. So we get 38% of supplemental money, where next year is our 3rd year at a higher rate, we would get all 43%. And we're looking at about 8.1 million estimated revenues in that category. So we always look at our enrollment and our average daily attendance. As you know, enrollment is how many kids are enrolled in the district. We have to fund for that, as do all school districts. We have to have enough teachers, enough desks, enough supplies, enough instructional support, and yet we're funded on the ADA, our average daily attendance. So if you look at the top 25-26, again, our enrollment, which I said is projected at 10,227, and our ADA is at 95.56%. It's just like 0.02% above last year because we track on actuals. So, we went up 0.02% from the year before, which I know is really challenging because student services and all the principals and the district has that goal of, increasing attendance. And I think there's been, a lot of really outstanding work and focus on knowing the importance, and we're trying to get kids here and lots of outreach, and yet it's not going up because if you look at 2017-18, which is pre-COVID, the district was over 97%, but it's also, you may read or hear, it's just what people say. It's not just our district. It's just kind of, I don't want to say the new norm because we don't want it to be the new norm, but it's where a lot of districts are sitting right now. So we continue to have it as a district goal, but every student who comes every day, that's how the ADA is calculated.
Yeah, and just to kind of put that into a number, right, is basically that means if we were getting the same attendance that we were pre-COVID with our student population, we'd have $2 million more to work with, right? So the state we'd have $2 million more just based on the attendance. And so the state is basically fining us $2 million because our attendance is lower than what it was during COVID as we go forward.
So as you're familiar with, the budget is separated into unrestricted and restricted revenues and expenditures. And the restricted revenues are those funds that are legally restricted for specific purposes. So we're taking a look at the unrestricted side of the budget, which is the majority of the budget. And the change, so what we're looking at in these slides is the comparison for what we think we're estimated to close the books with at the end of this fiscal year, which is June 30th. It will change a little, but we're estimated to get $110 million, and then we're estimated to get $116 million for the next year. So there is a change. It's an increase in LCFF revenue of $5.89 million. And the reason for that change is a combination of, so we are getting increased enrollment, so we will get more money based on the number of, because the ADA stays the same, but it's over a larger amount of students. Also, that includes the COLA, the 2.3%. So for every, ADA, we're getting 2.3% more. It's also the increase in supplemental funds. So the supplemental funds increased by 1.4 million because it's the 3-year rolling average. Looking at the restricted revenues, and again, you can see they're much smaller. Overall, they actually reduced by about $1.4 million. And again, the local control funding formula has a small restricted component, and it has to do with the special education money that goes through LCFF. And that increased again partly because of the COLA increase. Federal money increased in part because we had a carryover in Title I, which is intervention program that's going to be used over the next few months. And then other state revenue, that went down by $748,000 because that was one-time funding. Again, that was in the budget last year that's no longer in the budget this year. And then if you look at all other local at 1.6 million, well, a lot of that is the CalShape money for heating, ventilation, and cooling. And you may remember back at second interim, it was added into the budget, both the revenue and the expenditures. Well, that's one-time money, one-time expenditure. So it's not, and it sits in what's called all other local restricted. The other thing that happens every year during an adopted budget is you have your local grants, your student body money, your library, parent club donations, turkey trot, and a lot of that, it doesn't go into the budget until we receive it. So it's like spent throughout the year. There's some carryover, but most of it starts again. So that all local revenue for the school sites goes up throughout the year. And then if you just take a look at combined, our revenues increased by 4.2 million. So when we talked about, we get this 2.3% COLA, and as with every school district, we have sort of these key annual expenditure increases that we don't control that are required for a variety of reasons. So I wanted to go through sort of some of the large ones and how much they are. So step and column, as you are aware, is for certificated teachers, they move a step and they move columns, and that classified employees move steps. And that's every year. It's part of the salary schedules. And we're estimating it for this year about $1.1 million. CalSTRS is the certificated employer pension, and CalPERS is our classified. Again, CalPERS goes up every year in how much we pay into that, but they both go up because we're adding more employees, and we're increasing salaries. So if your salary increases go up and you're paying 19.1% for CalSTRS, it's also costing us more money. Health and welfare is estimated to go up by almost 1.8 million. I'm not going to go over a lot of them. Utilities right now, which is, our energy, water, garbage, we're starting out at 300,000 above what we have, and that's an estimate, but we put that in because it's based on history. That's the minimum we think it would go up. Transportation, always increased costs, about 171,000 estimated right now. Obviously, I think one of the other big pieces is what's called our special education contribution, which is the amount of money that the district has to provide to cover We cover actually about 70% of the costs of the program. But from the previous year, the contribution, this is the increase from the previous year. And this is actually lower than, say, it was the last 2 years. But as I said earlier, we estimate it to go up. We reduced it to start the year, but as we provide more services, the contribution, there is no more revenue per se, so it will go up in the contribution, but I will continue to report that out. And routine restricted maintenance, just a reminder, contribution, what that means is that our maintenance and operations for all our deferred maintenance, it's required by law. The state does not fund it. So we take 3% of all our expenditures and we take that amount and we move it from general fund and contribute it to this restricted RRMA, and it's going up 90,000 from the previous year estimated. But so we're looking at 6.6 million. And this is what we're saying is just, these are sort of the annual increases. Also, you know, contracts and services go up by at least the CPI, custodial supplies go up every year. There's a lot of other things, but I think it's just pointing out that a COLA is never going to really capture the beginning of what it takes to operate a school district, you know, all the needs. So taking a look at unrestricted expenditures, again, there is an increase of $7 million, and the majority of it is in salaries and benefits. So what I'm going to do is just go to the next slide because it talks more about the details. So certificated salaries have gone up 4.5 million, but a lot of that has to do is our intervention teachers and counselors. They were funded by restricted one-time funds, and now they're on the unrestricted side with the LCFF supplemental funds. We also, added 13.5 new teachers, their step and column increases, and so all of that factors into that increase. Classified salaries, $832,000 increase from last year to start the budget, and as you saw, there's a lot of TK aides that are being added. Also, some of our TK instructional aides were being funded by one-time TK money that is also gone. So once again, we've had to move some of that back onto the unrestricted general fund side. Increase in pension costs, 1.7 million. And as we know, it's CalSTRS, CalPERS, health and welfare, which relates to the increase in salaries. Books and supplies, it went down, 187,000, but again, that has to do partly with your starting the year. So we start with specific budgets for the school sites, and then there is some room where sometimes they need things that they can't go without. More students arrive, so there's going to be increased costs in supplies. On the restricted side, there were quite a few reductions. A lot of it had to do with one-time money, no longer there. It's 5.3 million in reductions. So if you take a look at the details again, so the certificated salaries decreased by about 500,000, and that had to do with the decrease in one-time funding. Classified salaries did increase, and again, that's because we also are adding more special education TK classes. Yeah, and so again, it's special education TK instructional aides. We also added back behavioral support positions, which are generally become contractor services positions, but at the beginning of the school year, we start them in the budget because they are positions that exist. Employee benefits up a lot, 1.7 million, but again, as you can see, it's CalPERS, CalSTRS, health and welfare. Maintenance and operations reduction of 1.2 million, and a lot of that has to do with, we had a couple of grants, including educator effectiveness and some one-time block grant money left that we were spending on supplies and support supplies that we're not needing. And then the other part of it is, again, starting the budget lower with the idea of it not going up, but we watch it carefully. So I think the main piece really, as you look at it, you go service and operating expenditures went down $6 million. How could that happen? Well, 3 million of that is because we took the special education contract positions, and to start the school year, every year we do this, it goes back into salaries and benefit money. And then as they can't get hired, then we actually move that budget money. So you'll see throughout the year some increases in services operating costs, and it's removed from the salary side. Also, the CalShape grant, $2.6 million we have that is no longer in, that's the cost of what we're getting to do the work, which is covered by a grant. So, if you combine your unrestricted and restricted expenditures, you come out with 1.6 million. But, obviously it's much more detailed than that in the story, because you went up 7 million in unrestricted and you reduced by 5 million in restricted. So a part of adopting the budget by law is that the board has to approve the adopted budget year and the 2 following years, and that we can certify that we meet our financial obligations. So just to remind everybody what multi-year projections are not, if you look on the right side in the slide in red. So they're not predictions or forecasts, and they're not crystal balls. And then if you look on what they are, is that they're the result of mathematical calculations. So when I say that the multi-year projections are based on the May revise, they're based on the governor's budget and how much he thinks the COLA is this year, which will be adopted, and the 2 out years. And those change. He'll come out in January and the COLAs for the 2 out years will change. He'll come in May. So that is why it's constantly a moving target, but it's the best information we have when the budget is written. So we've talked already about sort of the planning factors and what goes into the budget and why it costs so much. But again, if you've probably looked at this closely, but just the very first line, the COLA. So it shows you that this year we're at 2.3%. And then it shows you in 26, 27, they think it might be 3.02%. And 27, 28, it might be 3.42%. So all of this is calculated into how we estimate the revenues and expenditures for the out years as well as this year. The average daily attendance, enrollment we have going up in 26, 27 because we know we're still growing. We do demographic projections. There's a team that work really hard. Chris, Kirsten, and Maria Ambras to work on all the time. Where are we? We look at a lot of data, but in the end, we don't know until we're really close to that time. So for 27, 28, the enrollment projections are flat because you're basing it, that's how you get your revenues, and we don't know. So until we know more information or are closer, we would leave it at a flat rate. Average daily attendance, that's the other big piece we talked about, how we get our revenues. So it's flat for 3 years because as of right now, we're not going up. But if we go up, then we would increase it on the 2 out years as well to the same as where we went up in this year's budget. I'm not going to go through all this, but again, it's all the pension costs. It shows how much we get in lottery, step and column, book supplies, all that goes into your multi-year projection. So we have never, I don't think in Brentwood, seen a multi-year projection with, the unrestricted ending fund balance being at a 3% reserve for economic uncertainty. So for 25-26 in this year, which you're going to adopt at the next meeting, hopefully, we are at the ending fund balance on the unrestricted side, a 3% with no additional reserve. In the past, there's always been some reserve. And if you may recall, I think it was just last August, the board rescinded the 1.25 reserve for additional economic uncertainty. So we're at 3%. And in order to meet that 3%, that includes the transfer of Fund 17 to Fund 01 of 703,000 in order to have enough money to make it.
What is 3%?
Pardon?
What is 3%?
It's like 4.4 million. Yeah. And, payroll, 1 month of payroll is around 9 million. I mean, again, it's really the minimum. I mean, and it's the state required minimum for the size of our district, but most districts in the state of California actually have a much larger, it doesn't mean they have a lot more money, but they have more money in reserve, but it's the required by law to pass your budget. And then in 26-27, we are again at 3%, but that includes a reduction in expenditures of $2 million that would come out of next year's budget. And in 27-28, we're at 3.54%, and we would need to cut $2 million additional dollars to meet the 3%. And the chart below it shows what I've just said. So there is no extra money. We've always had some money before to work with, or one-time funds. This is a very, very challenging time. So when you take a look at the multi-year projections, and really what we're looking at is the first red circle where it says unrestricted ending fund balance. So here it says what our 3% is $4,559,189. That's what 3% is, and that's all we have. And then in the 2 out years, we're at 3 and 3.54%. And if you look below the second circle, it includes the reduction of $2 million each year. And also, our goal is to return the Fund 17 money back to Fund 17, maybe at the end of the fiscal year, we don't know, but that is not currently in the multi-year projection, but we're going to add that in at the 45-day revise. And I'm going to talk more about the governor's budget. We believe there's going to be a little bit of one-time money, but first I'm going to get through the other funds to, talk about the end of the adopted budget piece. So as you know, we have all these other funds, and they're all required by law to be separate. Fund 17 is a special reserve fund that can be transferred to Fund 1, but all the others you can't do that. The cafeteria fund is a federal fund. It's our universal meal program, and it has to be only in that fund. And you see it at $9 million, but we're required by law to have a 3-year spend down. And so, for example, this summer we're adding a satellite kitchen to Bristow. In the room across from the kitchen, it's a classroom that's not being used anymore. And so we're using cafeteria funds. They're allowed to, it's going to have 3 new serving windows and, refrigeration and all of that. And that's about a $500,000 project. So we're looking, that part of that money will be going for the infrastructure. Just a reminder, Fund 21 in the bond fund are at the end of, based on where we're projected today, we have $5.5 million that's not allocated out for through the end of next year. So let's kind of go back to what we were talking about, the 3% of our ending fund balance. And so as we know, because we have no extra in the budget, any new or increases in costs will require us to either get more revenue or make reductions somewhere else within the general fund budget. So I said, we've already kind of talked about, but again, 3% and $2 million of cuts in 26-27, $2 million in cuts in 27-28, moving Fund 17 back from Fund 1. These are very large deficit numbers to overcome, but we're here. And every district has to go through this. So our enacted budget is signed into law July 1st, and then we will revise our budget. So there is expected to be some governor's one-time grant block money coming. And at this point, the legislature is finalizing what they think it should be based on what Governor Newsom said at the May revise. And they have to, by Sunday, the 15th of June, the legislature has to say, this is what we want to put forward, so they get paid. So there is money. If you go into like the second bullet, or the third bullet, it's called student support. So it's a discretionary block grant. We don't know how much it's going to be. In the May revise, Governor Newsom had a pretty good amount of money in there, and the legislature just released yesterday that they think that should be cut by 2/3. So we don't really know. There's also, it's not in the slides, but Learning Recovery Emergency Block Grant, which was one we had originally used for counselors and intervention teachers. Well, they took some of it away, you may remember, after giving it to districts. So it looks as if we will get that back, some of it. There's also an additional TK ratio add-on, they call it, which might be more money for TK, but it's more LCFF money, because we're adding, for example, if we're adding all those additional aides for the new ratio of 12 to 10, now 10 to 1. So that money will obviously be very valuable for our deficit, for when we have increase in expenditures, say in special ed. So when we come back in August for the board meeting, we will know what those numbers are, at least in estimated, because by July 1st, it'll be signed into law. And just a reminder that the governor is going to sign the budget, but because of the LA and Ventura County fires, their tax deadlines were extended till October. So we still don't know. This is what the governor has in his budget, but the challenge is the state, as you know, does not have a good economic outlook. I mean, their deficit spending 25, 26, 26, 27, and they're saying their deficit spending beyond. And so, but they're going to have to probably find more money for, the fires. The federal budget that, as it stands today, we don't know where it's going to be, but they want to cut of 15% of some programs and perhaps eliminate some others, which is funds for us as well. And we don't know what those impacts are to this year's budget. And then again, just the state of California, based on the federal budget, will then affect also a lot of other programs and services for the state of what revenues they have. So I think School Services of California summed it up really well when they gave their May revised presentation. They said the present is uncertain, the future even more so. But, so district financial conditions, they are a major concern, but we also want to always remind ourselves that the district is committed to preserving the integrity of our educational programs while maintaining fiscal solvency. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Diane gave a tons of great detail there. Just a couple things that I think is two things I want to reiterate that are so different now than they've been in the past. Is one is how close we are to the minimum required by the state, right, in terms of our reserve. So that's not something that we get leeway with. We have to make that reserve. And so we'll continue to talk about that. And we're assuming at this point that we'll start a budget cutting process as we go into the year to get ready for next year. But I think the other thing is the uncertainty is so hard because right now we can't tell you within several $1 million how much we're getting next year, right? And that is largely unusual. Normally we have things that are up in the air, but the combination of the threatened federal cuts that are coming, the fact that there's a minimum floor that's set for education funding called Proposition 98, and the governor and the legislature have both proposed to fund that $1.2 billion less than what even the minimum is. And then there was lots of one-time funding that was available that we thought that might hold us over. That's not in the budget, right? That was cut by $1.2 billion, right, in the latest legislative proposal. And so I think as we go forward, my concern is that the government isn't recognizing how dire the straits are for many school districts as we enter into this time, right? Most school districts experience the piece that if you're only getting a 1% COLA and then a 2% COLA, you're deficit spending immediately because you can't make your ends meet with what's already expected for you going forward. So we'll continue to come back. If there's any places where there's hope, right? We always hope that our attendance will get better. We hope that our enrollment will go up. But enrollment going up also brings additional cost in terms of professionals as well as we go forward, right? So there's definitely some big challenges ahead as we head into this time, but it is unprecedented for us in the level of challenge that we're facing financially.
So it's rather districts that are, the same demographics that we have, right? Are we seeing are they in the same kind of situation right now compared to say some of the communities where they have the more severe unduplicated numbers?
Yeah, I think we're seeing budget cuts that are taking place across districts, right? Millions of dollars are being cut. There were many districts that made big cuts this year when we weren't making them, right? So in some ways, we've weathered that a little bit better than others. I think we're at a time where our neighbors are all pretty much cutting around us or slowing down in what they're spending as they go forward. So there's been some districts that have had to make drastic cuts. San Ramon Valley, Pleasanton are a couple to name that are around us close by. Yeah.
Thank you for a complex thing, and I know crystal ball is really part of it. When the hose putting water in the bucket is putting less water than the hole in the bottom of the bucket is draining out. We have a pretty straightforward, simple problem. But the term reduction in cuts is a very cruel term when we come down to people and employment and quality of programs and things that we know are important in education. So we'll have to get into those discussions very seriously.
So are we locked in with our student enrollment? Those are our end of year thing, or when are we locked in is, I
Good
guess,
question.
a better
So
question.
it is the first Wednesday in October is
Okay.
the enrollment day that we get for the state certification. And ADA goes on all year. And because we're on break, it's our last school day before break. So, yeah, so
You're basing it, though, on our attendance right now. Well, there was 170 or 100 and something.
yeah, so we're thinking 170 increase. Yeah, so it's based on our attendance now at the end of the year, but also on a lot of historical facts of some of how we've grown throughout the year, and separately, historically, how much we think will grow over the summer.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of data. It's a projection, not a forecast, but it's based on a lot of data. And then we will update it. So as soon as, even in the 45-day revise, we'll already know like how many we have enrolled, how much we increased. So that gets updated all the way until first interim when we have the certified data from the state. Yeah.
There's no other questions, Michael, on item 2. Second item.
Okay.
I forgot your first name.
Amy.
You don't have to stay here.
She's really interested. She said, "Can I stay?"
Okay.
I just finished my financial literacy class, so.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
All right. Good evening, Board of Education. So I just want to make sure you know that in your packet is our draft LCAP for this year. Included in there over the last several years, what we're required to include has changed. But this year you will see 4 parts. There's the budget overview for parents, which is the first half a dozen pages or so. The longest part of the LCAP is the actual LCAP, which is included in there. And then we have our most recent reporting on our local indicators. and then the federal addendum, which is a document required to meet federal requirements that gets approved every year. So this is for your review. As you know, next week I'll come back and ask for action on this item. So if there's no questions, we'll move on to the next item.
140 pages of interesting reading.
I have to figure out how to read it sideways.
You turn.
Yeah, sorry about that. We'll fix that in the next one. We'll turn that. It went in
Oh,
sideways accidentally for the PDF.
Because is,
Yeah, we'll have to you can put it in PDF and rotate them. So we'll do that.
I'll look at that. Yep. All right. Yeah, turn your head there, Steve. This year.
It's not a,
Yeah. Or your computer.
it's not a big deal, only 120 pages. So.
Well, and that's my lead into the English Learner Master Plan. So I'm here with Lindsay Waite, and Lindsay and I have had a friendly competition this year to see whose report is the longest. And Lindsay's English Learner Master Plan beat my LCAP by a number of pages, even when she shrunk the font size. But we're going to give you a little bit of information on the master plan, and then this is an item for action. So let me get this casted. All right. So our English Learner Master Plan is something that Lindsay and Hillary Pratap in my department have been working on a lot this year. You can see just the extent of it in there. I know you've had a chance to take a look at it, and Lindsay's going to walk through just some highlights and some of the important parts of the English Learner Master Plan. Before she does that, I want to let you know that we've developed a mission and vision for our English Learner program, and I think these are really important, so I'd like to read them aloud. Our mission is that Brentwood Union School District embraces the rich cultural and linguistic diversity of our students. We are committed to fostering English learners' full participation in a rigorous, inclusive education that promotes English proficiency, academic excellence, and multilingualism, preparing all students for success in college, career, and civic life. Our vision is that we envision an equitable and inclusive educational community where the strengths and identities of multilingual learners are honored and nurtured through high quality instruction, meaningful access to curriculum, and aligned systems of support. We ensure every student thrives academically, socially, and linguistically.
As Michael mentioned, this is a labor of love, and so I'm really excited to be here because it's the end of this big phase. To frame our discussion of the master plan, let's first explore some of the relevant background knowledge. This chart represents the district's demographics taken as a snapshot last week. So BUSD serves over 10,000 students from rich, diverse backgrounds. Over 2,000 students are multilingual, speaking more than 35 different languages. And as you can see on the right-hand side, there are the top 10 languages: English, Spanish, Telugu, Farsi, Tamil, Tagalog, Arabic, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and Cantonese, among many others.
I was listening so much, I forgot to go to the next page.
This bar graph represents the EL typologies, or different categories of students, to further define their placement on their EL journey within BUSD. And just to call out a few different categories, so our TBD are to be determined students. This is mostly our TK population who has yet to take the initial LPAC until they enter kindergarten. We have dually identified students. That means those are our EL students who also have an IEP. IFEP students were determined initially fluent English proficient on the initial LPAC, so they didn't need EL services. And very proud of our reclassified English proficient students. As I think Hillary called out, we had 162 students reclassified this year.
I think that was up from 99 or something like that the year
99.
before. So really good work there.
I don't typically read from slides, but I really liked the whole piece of the purpose of the EL Master Plan. So I'm going to read it to you. The Brentwood Union School District's English Learner Master Plan serves as a foundational guide that establishes clear, consistent expectations for educational partners serving English learners while ensuring compliance with state and federal legal mandates in alignment to the EL roadmap. The plan provides a comprehensive, research-based framework designed to improve instructional programs and support services for ELs throughout our district. It outlines the educational journey for ELs, including identification processes, available program options, and pathways to English proficiency through access to challenging academic curricula. The plan establishes systems for monitoring student progress from initial identification through reclassification and beyond. Ultimately, the EL Master Plan aims to ensure that all ELs in BUSD achieve optimal linguistic and academic success through equitable and responsive educational programs. So here is an outline of all of the different sections within the EL Master Plan. The introduction includes an overview of our district profile, acknowledgements, and our EL roadmap overview. Sections 1 through 3 represent the student journey within the EL program. 4 is an overview of the internal processes for staffing and professional learning. 5 is our family engagement, including ELAC, DLAC, and opportunities for within the sites and community resources. Section 6 is our EL program evaluation and funding, outlining how we ensure that the program is effective, implemented, and remains in compliance. And then lastly, our appendices, which highlights different forms, student forums, family communication, and more. This table highlights how each EL Master Plan section is aligned to the Federal Program Monitoring, or FPM, EL alignments, items, and the California EL Roadmap. This alignment displays the EL Master Program, how it creates equitable and coherent educational systems that support our multilingual students and families, in addition to maintaining compliance.
As you recall, was that just last year? Well, recently we went through a federal program monitoring review, and so it was really important to us that in our English Learner Master Plan, we had alignment such that when that happens again, and it will for us, we're ready to go with the master plan being connected to what is required in the federal program monitoring.
So as Michael shared last year, if we were to think about how was the master plan, how did it come to be? Last year, both myself and Hillary Pertap started a draft of the EL master plan as an outcome of the FPM audit. In the same year, the district's equity audit findings further reinforced the need for an EL master plan, and thus was born the LCAP goal of the EL master plan as well. At the beginning of this year, Hillary, myself, and Michael led feedback cycles with multiple educational partner groups, including those within the district, different school sites, and the larger community. More to come on the next slide. And then most recently, we spent a lot of time consulting with LMU, the Center for Equity for English Learners, or SEAL, on the EL Master Plan. They really supported us in aligning again to our LCAP, the EL roadmap, and a lot of federal program monitoring compliance items. In order to share the master plan with our sites, we did a trainer of trainer model. So Hillary and myself prepared our ELD leads and our EL site admin to introduce it to their sites during CLT time in the spring. And then at the end of this year, we had our site admins share during their ELACs. And we also shared with our DLAC here, hoping to publish the document tomorrow on our website. And then next year, we're hoping that our new district EL coordinator will implement the EL master plan and continue to make changes and improvements, since it will continue to be a living and working document. As mentioned in the prior slide, here is an overview of the feedback groups, where we took different sections of the master plan based on those most relevant to the groups. You can see those within the district, the school sites, and the community. This slide highlights the acknowledgements for all of the people who contributed within the feedback groups. You can see them broken down by district, LMEO, and Contra Costa County of Ed. A big thank you to all of these people and their school sites represented for all of their feedback. It was super helpful in thinking about how do we make this document most relevant to the needs of our students. A big shout out to Hillary Pratap. She worked on this just as much as I did, a lot of time and energy. And a special thank you to my family who supported me while I was working nights and weekends and learning to be a new mom. So a lot of energy into this project.
Yeah, I would just echo that. I think what we have here is an amazing document. I had someone say to me, I've been in this district 20 something years. I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited for this because it really shows how we're going to support our English learners. And I do want to really just thank Lindsay and Hillary. Lindsay was out for a quarter of the year on maternity. So to get this done in a year is really a phenomenal task. And I think we have a model document. So this is up for your approval. And then, as Lindsay said, it will be an ongoing sort of document that guides our work, but there will be things we change over time as we learn and grow within it. Questions before you?
Are there any questions?
I appreciated reading it.
Yes.
If nobody has any other questions, I move that we approve item 10.5, the ELMP.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded, and we approve the ELMP. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thank you,
much. Beautiful.
Lindsay and Michael and Hillary, thank you so much for such important work, right? Over 20% of our students,
Yeah.
so many languages, such a changing landscape that's made us such a stronger district. And I think this is probably the best place we've been with our English learner program. So thank you for the hard work that you've done.
Great, thank you.
Item 10.6 is the approval of resolution 2025-11.
Yes, resolution 2025-11. We talked about it, the reasoning behind it in the budget presentation. So resolution requires a special reserve fund, Fund 17, to be transferred to the general fund to meet the 3% minimum reserve. Our goal is to return the $703,190 to Fund 17 at the end of the fiscal year.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2025-11.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for item 10.6, approval of resolution 2025-11. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. Next item is approval of resolution 2025-12.
This is related as well. So the board previously committed more than 10 years ago the ending fund balance of the Special Reserve Fund, Fund 17, to the opening of new schools. So this resolution authorizes the board to reverse the commitment to the new schools and commit the fund balance and change the committed funds to the unassigned, unappropriated reserve for economic uncertainty.
I'll make a motion to approve 10.7 approval of resolution 2025-12.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve item 10.7, the approval of resolution 2025-12. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? This passes 5-0. Welcome. Item 10.28, the racial and harmful language.
Yes, board, we have Director of Student Services, Kirsten Job, and I will be presenting this item. I have good news. This is our last slide item, PowerPoint slide of the evening for you. What we want to talk about is something that we've been working on within our district for the last several months. And that's a chance to proactively present clear guidelines on racist and harmful language and acts within our district. And so we wanted to present it to you tonight. And Kirsten and I wanted to present it together because we've been working with the leaders of our district on it in an effort to try to make our district and to make our schools have a more consistent approach to what's acceptable within our schools. And so we really want to establish a really clear response to these types of acts and language as we look at it. We really want our schools to be places that are inclusive and supportive and respectful learning environments. And we also want to make sure there's a consistency in how we respond across our schools to these types of incidents as they happen. And so we'll start.
So just thinking about what constitutes racial or harmful acts.
Are you on? I can hear you.
I'm on. Can you hear me now?
Okay.
So making sure that we understand what do we mean when we talk about racial or harmful acts. We're talking about any kind of racist comment, a harmful hate speech, anything that's identity-based. Social media posts, we talk about that a lot. We talked about that earlier today. Cyberbullying that impacts the school environment. Symbols of hate. Any kind of LGBTQ plus and disability-based bias, all of those are considered hate. And then possible administrative responses to those. These are not necessarily in order on our slide here, but suspension or removal from activities are acts that we would do. We might involve law enforcement if needed, and we might have transfers between schools or expulsion if we need that. Restorative circles are a piece that we would definitely include as much as possible to repair harm for our students. And we would definitely document these things in our students' files.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we want to talk about, because we talk a lot about restorative practices and restorative circles, and one of the things that we want to make clear it's the idea to have students understand the harm that they've caused and give them an opportunity to repair it. But it's not a replacement for discipline. In fact, oftentimes it happens alongside discipline. So you can think of the example of a student that's suspended from school for something. If that student were to be suspended from school and simply come back the next day, never had a conversation, never tried to work through the incident, never had an opportunity to sit with that other student, even whatever took place, and tried to repair the harm, it's likely that those incidents will continue, right? And so we'd like to think of this as an opportunity to both stop the incident from happening, but also acknowledge that there are consequences for actions that happen at times. I think one of the things when thinking about the discipline that's taking place and the consistency that we want to see is oftentimes these are confidential, but we want to assure people that we're responding to these things immediately. Certainly the context of the incident is going to be important, the age of the students, where it takes place, and so forth. And we also want it to be a learning opportunity, but at the same time, we want to make sure that students understand how important it is to us that racist and harmful acts are not going to be tolerated as we go forward. And just like anything else that we had, there'd be tiered consequences based on the severity of the incidents and whether it was something that was repeated from before going forward. I think one thing we specifically called out is around the N-word specifically. We've received lots of reports from our schools of use of this word between students. And we want to be very clear that this is prohibited, right, in all contexts, that even if you have a friend that tells you it's okay to use it with them, if you're singing a song or you have permission from somebody, that doesn't make it okay in school. And we want to have uniform consequences for that. We want to educate students around the history of that and why that's such an impactful word to use. But at the same time, we don't feel like it's appropriate to allow that on any of our campuses. Sometimes we'll hear that these are words that are used at home with students, but just like the workplace, and we're preparing students for a work environment, it wouldn't be allowed in a workplace, and we don't want to allow it at school. So having consistent responses to that will be important.
And we want to make sure that we have the right student supports for being on both sides of any kind of actions that may happen. So we'll have counseling service for our students. We're very glad we have counselors available. The administrative support for safety and safety plans. And we want to make sure we have those policies in place that make sure that students have the safe places that they can go and provide those immediately have immediate action for every student. And then those restorative circles and restorative practices for all of our students, that they have the chance to repair that harm and to have that harm repaired for them. That's really important. And then we have very, very specific and clear staff guidance to document the incidents, to escalate it when they see those actions happening. They hear that there's no unresolved incidents that happen, that they can escalate that to the admin, and that we have professional learning for our staff. We've started that learning, and we want to continue it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you'll see in your packet, and this is just a little overview of it, is really the package that we've put together that overviews some of these things. But really the most important piece is the professional development around it, so that we have that consistent approach. And so what you'll see is some tips for stopping harmful language that we'll be working with our school leaders on, who will also be working with their staffs on. We find that sometimes people just don't know the right thing to say when harmful language, racist language comes up. And so we want to make sure that our staffs feel comfortable in how to address that. And so what we've tried to do is put together some professional development that will support the schools in providing the school leaders and providing that to them with strategies like interrupting and explaining and addressing and reinforcing, connecting to historical context, which is all listed in there for you. And then we've created 5 different professional development opportunities that are there for our educational leaders to use within their schools as we go forward. Our goal is to make everybody comfortable that what they're doing is the right thing to create the right kind of culture and climate that they want at their schools going forward. So.
And this is our commitment, to make sure that we have a safe and inclusive environment. And we want to make sure that our students feel that they belong, our staff feels that they belong, and our community feels that they belong. Yeah. And that's our commitment.
It was really important to the principals and the vice principals and to Kirsten and I that we brought this specifically to you as the board to approve, because we think it's important. There's a commitment from the top down that says that the kind of culture and climate that we're going to have is not going to have racist and harmful language, and that we're going to do everything that we can to promote consistent responses when that happens, to try to minimize it and hopefully eliminate it as we go forward in our schools. And so Kirsten and I wanted to present this to you tonight, and then it's our hope to be able to kick this off with our school leaders at the beginning of the year. They've already been doing some work with it, but to be able to kick it off as an entirety and a clear directive from the board. So we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Oh, that's good.
I like it.
Excellent.
When we see 35 languages and obviously different cultures, it's very important that we cover these areas.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think we'd like to say that we don't just teach math and science and reading and social studies, right? We're also hoping that we're teaching our students how to be successful in a diverse society as they go forward, right? And that's critical for their success.
Yeah. And the principals now have clear leadership on what to say and how to respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this really came, that's a really good point, Twee. I do want to acknowledge the principals. This really came from them in struggling with hearing some of this language on their campuses and trying to find a consistent way to approach and asking, how are other schools handling this when this happens, right? When there's a group of kids at a game, right, that say this, right? How are we responding to it? And so really we took it as that's our leadership responsibility, right, to help them find the right way and the right approach for that.
We also said, I think it was back in
Make sure
February,
you're using your microphone too, sir. Yeah.
back in February, I think it was, we passed that resolution, I think that we're here for all kids. And it's one thing to say it, but you have to have the practices that are underneath. And this is a really great example of that. So, perfect.
Any other questions? No?
This is an action item.
I will make a motion that we approve 10.8, approval of racist and harmful language and acts protocol.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded that we approve item 1.8, the approval of racist and or harmful language and acts protocol. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? It passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Item 10.9 is the approval of a revised management salary increase and updated salaries table.
Yeah, this is, we had to revise our language due to the county. They came back to us, and so we updated language, made it more clear. There's no change in the amount, but to be clear here, it's a 1.07 effective July 1st, 2024, the same as all employee groups. And based on the vote by the management group, this adjustment was reflected on step 6 of the salary schedule. So resulting in a 2.06 increase for employees at step 6 on our management agreement. No increase for employees 1 through 5. And so clarifying the language per the county's request, and this is an action item for you tonight.
Move that we approve item 10.9, the revised management salary increase language and updated salary table.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. We approve item 10.9. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Can I just ask that you send
Sure.
another one out? Because the first 3-4 pages, you can't really, on the scale.
Oh, sure, on the salary scales?
Yeah.
Salary schedule?
Yeah,
Sure.
if you don't mind, just
No,
the first
absolutely.
3, if you blow it up,
Oh,
it's all blurry.
Blurry?
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if it was just mine.
Yep.
Really small.
Really small. The small I can deal with, but the blurriness and the small,
No problem.
I'm old.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it still passes 5-0.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to hold you back on that, but you're all good.
Item 10.10 is also an action item, the approval of the updated job description for director in management and operations.
Yeah, continuing on updating our job descriptions throughout the district, and especially as we have openings that occur, we want to make sure that our language is fresh and up to date and compatible with the role, but also with to be competitive with other districts. And so this is an updated job description for the Director of Maintenance and Operations.
I move to approve the updated job description for Director of Maintenance and Operations.
I'll second.
Item 10.10 has been moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 10.11 is also an action item, the approval of the tentative agreement. Please.
Next, we'll just start.
That's right. 10 so excited.
I was going to say, what has this got to do with you?
Through me too. Go for it, Kirsten. It's all yours. So this is an MOU with BTA, our BTA president. Right now, what we have in our CBA is for a middle school position, it's a 0.17 release. For an elementary teacher, it's a 0.20. So it's 1 day release. BTA was able to obtain a grant from CTA with an additional 0.20, and then with BTA covering the rest. And so it's a total of a 0.50 release for the BTA president before you tonight. The district's expense on this stays the same. The rest is covered by BTA and CTA.
Nobody has any questions. I'll make a motion that we approve 10.11, which is the approval of the tentative agreement as stated by Mr. Calabrese.
I second.
Item 10.11 has been so eloquently moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Item 10.12, the approval of the expanded learning opportunities, the ELOP 3-year review.
I'm obviously very excited about this. So every 3 years, we get to approve our Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. It's actually the first 3-year round because the lovely Mr. Bowen 3 years ago created the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program because we are required by the state to have this. It is money that we receive that is specifically for this program. So as we are required to update our program, our whole plan every 3 years, it is updated for you. Something I just wanted to update you with, since we started this program, we now have 481 students in this program, and they receive, it is free to students who are on free and reduced lunch, English learners, and homeless and foster students. So this is what this program is for, and they have free after-school care, and it's for TK through 6th grade. So at the middle school, our administrators run that program, but if not, then we have a partnership with Ritus School that is the contracted group that we work with who provides that program. So I just want to give you that little update.
Great.
But yeah, it's wonderful that we have that partnership.
Go ahead.
I move to approve the 3-year review for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program.
Second.
Item 10.12 has been moved and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. The last is an information item not requiring a vote.
No, just there as something that happens every year. Presentation of total board compensation.
So we don't need to review it at all. Thank you. Any board comment for future agenda items? We'll announce that we start at 5 o'clock next Wednesday. It will be posted as such for our June 18th meeting.
And then
You all.
there is no closed
We
at
don't
this point.
anticipate a closed session. If we need to add one, we'll let you know. But
So we will revise this for the public that it starts at 5?
yeah,
Okay.
that's part of what we'll do.
Not that it
You
apparently,
need a motion on that at all? Okay. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
second.
Moved and seconded and so moved. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
All righty. Good job.
Thank you, Robert.
Robert, do you have a lot of viewers online?
8 right now.
Which